Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive and honestly, often invisible shift happening right now in the Arizona real estate market. If you're pricing homes anywhere near Tucson or Pima County these days, you really need to pay close attention to what's going on up on the roof. Owned solar panels added $16,000 to a home's value in Oro Valley. A solar lease in Marana added $31,000 in liability the buyer did not expect. Same panels on the roof, completely different pricing impact. So how does that even happen? Okay, let's dive into this, because this right here is the fundamental misunderstanding in our market today. When you look at a roof with solar, it's so natural to just see the physical hardware, right? But the physical panels actually don't matter all that much. It's the piece of paper underneath them that dictates everything. You aren't just pricing glass and wiring, you're pricing a 20-year financial contract that the new buyer is inheriting. To put the sheer scale of this into perspective, just think about the number 18. Solar penetration now exceeds 18% of residential rooftops in Tucson and Pima County. That means almost 1 in 5 homes you look at has some version of this paperwork attached to it. Honestly, if we aren't accounting for this properly, our pricing strategy is just built on sand. And trust me, buyers are definitely noticing. 41% of Tucson buyers specifically cite solar leases as a major deal concern during their due diligence. You have to realize that a solar lease isn't some fun value-add ROI question like flipping a kitchen. It's a rigid, mandatory liability. It functions exactly like a heavy condo special assessment or a restrictive HOA fee. It immediately raises red flags. Section 1, the Owned System Premium. Oro Valley Case Study. Let's look at the best-case scenario first, just to establish our baseline. Now, what's really interesting here is how clearly the math breaks down. In this Oro Valley example, the seller invested $28,000 to completely purchase their solar system 4 years ago. On a $420,000 home, the data shows an owned system adds a 3 to 4% premium in Arizona. That translates directly to an added value of $12,600 to $16,800 for the seller. It's just a pure win. And the reason it's a win is incredibly simple. The system generates $220 per month in hard energy savings, completely free and clear. As long as you have the proper documentation of that ownership, plus a clear production history to show the buyer, those savings translate directly into added equity. The buyer gets immediately lower utility bills with zero strings attached. Section 2, the leased system liability, Marana case study. Now we have to pivot to the exact opposite situation, where the value equation aggressively reverses. $31,000. That is the staggering buyout balance remaining on this specific home. In this scenario, the seller still has 14 years left on a 20-year lease. When it comes time to sell, that contract doesn't just evaporate into thin air. The incoming buyer must either qualify for and assume that lease, or the seller has to sacrifice $31,000 of their own hard-earned equity to clear the title. And this is exactly why buyers completely balk at assuming the lease. While the panels might generate some nice energy savings, the buyer is inheriting a required monthly payment, typically between $150 to $250. In our Marana example, it's a $185 monthly obligation. That payment entirely offsets the energy savings, effectively turning those shiny panels into a monthly financial burden they never asked for. So the crucial point is this: because buyers rightfully perceive this heavy buyout cost or that unavoidable monthly payment as a liability attached to the purchase, these homes take a massive hit. Data shows homes burdened with solar leases sit on the market for an average of 22 additional days compared to homes with owned systems. Buyers hesitate, deals stall out, and due diligence becomes an absolute nightmare. Section 3, the PPA escalator trap, Vail's case study. As if owned versus leased wasn't complicated enough, let me introduce you to the third and frankly most deceptive variable out there. We're talking about the Power Purchase Agreement, or PPA. Now, a PPA works differently. You don't have a fixed monthly equipment lease. Instead, you agree to buy the actual solar energy produced by the panels at a contracted rate. But here is the trap, right? That rate escalates annually. You are literally inheriting a contract that strictly gets worse and more expensive over time. Let's see how this builds. In the present day, the PPA rate might look great. It's highly competitive with standard Tucson electric power rates. But with a standard 2.9% annual escalator, by year 8, that compounding math catches up. Suddenly, the PPA rate exceeds standard grid power costs.
You find yourself locked into paying more for solar energy than you would if you just bought power directly from the city grid. Crazy, right?
Section 4, pricing with complete accuracy, documenting the true variable. Let's bring this all back to how we actually handle it. How do you navigate these tricky waters without collapsing a deal during due diligence? If your comparables include a mix of owned, leased, and no solar properties, your pricing is going to be wildly inaccurate. Well, this is precisely where you need the right tools. CMA Flow solves this exact problem by thoroughly documenting the specific solar scenario right in the blue box of a comprehensive 22-page report. It accounts for the comp variance of mixed solar setups, keeping your seller anchored to a defensible pricing range. When the appraiser and the buyer see the full picture, there are zero surprises. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thoughts to permanently shift your perspective before your next listing appointment. Are you pricing the physical panels on the roof or the 20-year contract hiding underneath them? Master the paperwork and you master the market. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.